Hey traders, Raghee here, and in this recap video I'm going to cover probably one of the two most talked about stories today, apart from the Bitcoin all-time high to the meltdown. But speaking of meltdowns, I got to talk about the Nas. The Nas really single-handedly drug the indexes down, and it started it and it just basically was a weight that was taking its toll on the Dow and the ES. And sometimes when you look at the weighting of the individual names of the S&P and you look at the top four, you realize, am I looking at the Nasdaq or am I looking at the S&P? And when you look at that, you realize when the Nasdaq starts taking a nosedive, it's inevitable that it's the likes of Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook are going to affect the ES, and the likes of Apple is going to affect the YM. So that's why when you start to see the NAS roll over, even when the S&P is having a really strong day in financials with the XLF, and you look at Boeing, you look at Bank of America, you look at Wells Fargo, you look at JP Morgan, they were doing fine. XLF is heading higher. It was very tough for those financials to outpace what was happening in tech. All right. So how do we trade a day like today? It's interesting. I was in the crypto room talking to the group, and my advice was no different, because trading psychology is trading psychology, whether it's tech stocks or whether it's cryptocurrency. And I told the folks the same thing, looking at a daily chart of Bitcoin, looking at a 1 hour chart, looking at an 8 hour chart of Bitcoin. Then I'm going to tell you, looking at a 1 hour chart or a daily chart of the NQ. You got to step out to longer term time frames when the panic sets in, unless you're willing to trade the panic as the momentum moves. So you can be a momentum trader, or you can wait to see where the momentum lands. And it's different wiring. It's not a matter of right or wrong. It's just different wiring. So when I look at the NAS today, these were levels that we had talked about first thing this morning. I mean, we had talked about these levels well before the open, probably, a good 45 minutes to, 30 to 45 minutes before the open, because once we have a high, and that's what this is here, we can start calculating what I call range extreme lows. And those of you that have heard me talk about daily price movement ranges, this is a superpower, gang. This is something that we do in the chat room every day, because it allows us to understand with a 68% probability what the market will do. Today we were definitely in the rare air. Today we were out in the 32% rare air that we see, but nonetheless we can still calculate. So what we had here today was a series of levels based upon those calculations that you could make well before the market starts melting down. And these were the levels that I had plucked out based upon historical repetitive price movement ranges. And I'm long the Nas right now. And I've seen my P&L fluctuate from, the bulk of my position that's built down around the 6,300 level, from as high as 6,314 down there to the 6,300 even. I've seen my P&L fluctuate. I'm looking for this market to basically create a swing buy, follow through to the upside. That's it. Okay? So your time frame is going to dictate the experience you have. If you're finding that looking at a 5-minute or a 15 is giving you heart palpitations, back away. That's not where your wiring on that given day is at. Step out. Keep calm and go to the longer term time frames. Okay? Now, intraday, there is nuance right now in the Asian session. There's a couple of things I'm looking at. One, I'd like for us to stay above 6,300. That's catching a bid there is a big deal. Two, I'd like to see us rally above some of these Darvis level resistance. So I'm talking about levels in here. Let the Darvis give you insight into what previous selling pressure was. And then in that way, when we get a move through 6320, I think we can run stops and start to see the recovery here. And that's really what this trade is all about. Okay, so that's how I handled today. I wanted to give you guys a recap on it. I'll see you in the next update.